Welcome to Golden Software's video training for Strater 4. Strater 4 is a fully customizable well log and borehole plotting software program with innumerable ways to graphically display your data. In this demonstration, I will explain a few options for customizing your borehole view. This is useful in a variety of circumstances, but especially when you're creating a template to use for future projects. A common customer request is the ability to specify which pages the header and footer appear on. Previous versions of Strater had both on all pages. In Strater 4, you can specify certain pages to have one or both display on. Start by downloading LAS Example 3 from the website on screen, and then open it in Strater. For these first few tools, we'll be working in the Borehole 1 multi-tab. Click File, Page Setup. For both the header and footer panes, the show method options are None, All, First Page Only, Last Page Only, and First and Last Pages Only. Under Header pane, change Show Method to First Page Only. Under Footer pane, change Show Method to Last Page Only. Click OK. Click the double right arrow in the toolbar to step through the pages. You can see that the first page contains the header. The middle page contains neither the header nor the footer, and the last page contains the footer. In your header, you may have some linked text that is too long for the space you're trying to put it in. You can remedy this by wrapping the text. Click the back arrow to get back to the first page, which is the only page with a header pane. We can see that the text for the file path runs off the page. In the Header pane Object section of the Object Manager, click on the file path linked text object in the Company box group. In the Property Manager, check the box next to Wrap Text. Next to Wrap Width, set the width of the text box. The value must be between 0.1 and 10. We'll choose 5.15 inches since this width will stop just before running off the page. Next to Keep Whole Word When Possible, uncheck the box. Since our text is a file path, spaces are not natural breaks, so we can break the line anywhere. Now the linked text object is split into multiple lines, the longest of which does not exceed 5.15 inches. In your borehole view, you may have objects that you want to space or align in certain ways, whether they are text or polyline objects in the header pane or logs in the log pane. We'll go through a few arrange options. First, let's say we want to align the start of the elevation label with the start of the depth label. Click on Depth, and then, holding Shift, click on the elevation. Click Arrange, Align Objects, Bottom. The elevation label moves to align itself with the depth label, which is the bottommost of the two. Next, we want to move the two depth and elevation depth logs such that they are perfectly adjacent to one another. Click the depth log, and then hold Shift and click the elevation depth log. Click Arrange, Space Objects, Right to Left. This moves the rightmost object, the elevation depth log, to the left until it is adjacent to the leftmost object, the depth log. Now, let's say we want each of our line logs to be the same width. Click on SB19-Cali in the Object Manager, hold Shift, and click on SB16-Cali. This will select all of our line logs. Click Arrange, Size Objects, Specify Width. Type 2 into the box or use the arrows to navigate to 2. Click OK. Now each of those logs is 2 inches wide. Since the scale bars are linked to the logs, they resize with the logs. The logs are spaced inconsistently, and the leftmost log is overlapping with the elevation depth log. So lastly, let's say we want to evenly space all of the logs, with the exception of the 2 depth logs, which we want to stay together. Click on Elevation in the Object Manager, hold Shift, and click on SB16-Cali to select all 3 line logs and the rightmost depth log. Click Arrange, Space Objects, Spacing. Type point 2 in the box or use the arrows to navigate to point 2. Click OK. Now each log is 0.2 inches away from the adjacent logs. Since the scale bars are linked to the logs, they move with the logs. If we click the collars table, we can see that South Barrow 16 is at an elevation of 880, South Barrow 17 is at an elevation of 770, and South Barrow 19 is at an elevation of 1100. If we want the lithology logs in our Borehole 1 multi-tab to reflect this, click View, Page, to zoom in to the page so we can see what we're doing. Click View, View Properties. In the Property Manager, set the reference datum to mean sea level. Each log shifts so the elevations match those in the collars table. Alternatively, we can hang our logs on a reference layer instead. This will shift the logs so that the top of the first instance of the layer we choose in each log occurs at a depth of 0. To see this, click on the depth log and change the orientation in the Property Manager to depth. Now double-click on our elevation label, change elevation to depth, and click OK. Let's say we wanted to use cubic formation, our gray layer, as our reference layer. Click View, View Properties, and then change the reference datum in the Property Manager to marker bed. Now make sure the marker bed is set to cubic formation. We can see the top of the cubic formation unit in each borehole is at a depth of 0. Lastly, let's say there's an unconformity between the cubic formation and the green Torok formation. To represent this on our boreholes, change the reference datum back to none so we can see this contact in all 3 wells. Click Draw, Unconformity. For South Barrow 16, click on the boundary between the formations on the left side of the log, hold Control, and then double-click on the boundary of the right side of the log, as if you were drawing a polyline along the boundary. Holding Control keeps your line perfectly horizontal. Hit Escape to exit drawing mode. You can click on the unconformity to specify the amplitude, wavelength, and line properties in the Property Manager. Let's change the amplitude to 0.15 and the wavelength to 0.3. We'll leave the line properties alone. Repeat for the other 2 wells. Alternatively, we can copy and paste our first unconformity line 2 times and then just drag the lines to the proper location on the other wells and use the handles to increase or decrease the length if need be. This concludes the video training for borehole view customization. If you have any additional questions, please contact Golden Software.